What's the worst slash best thing you've ever seen happen at a wedding? My ex-husband and I were at his cousin's wedding. Another cousin of his 25 meters was a groomsman. He was a giant guy, 64, roughly 400 pounds, and the life of the party. Picking kids up and throwing them in the air, holding the groom on his shoulders, dancing like a maniac, having a blast. I went to the bathroom and came back to the reception to the music cut, and everyone circled around the dance floor just panicked. There was Matt, completely purplish red, and on the floor, while a guest performed CPR and others were calling 911, taking his pulse, screaming. He passed away from a massive heart attack. Pronounced dead on the scene. The reception ended right then and there, obviously. The bride and groom were supposed to leave for their honeymoon to Hawaii that same evening. They ended up not going, and instead they stayed home to attend the funeral where the groom was a palbra. Well, that was the most dramatic and shocking one so far. Hope they got the honeymoon in the end, and RIP big guy. Sounds like the dude you need in your life, and terrible it was cut short. Someone's sanitary towel fell off and landed on the dancer floor, and someone else just kicked it to the side so that the bride's dress didn't sweep it up. It just sat there all night. Not related. In movies and stuff you see Americans shoving the cake into their partner's face, just mashing it up all over the face. If I saw that, I'd be appalled. Is this an actual thing? Why would you do that? Is this an actual thing? I have only seen this once, and it was when my husband was the best man and shoved it in the groom's face in good fun. Unless it's your type of humor as a couple, it's not really a thing. One person doing it to the other is, even by American standards, considered in bad taste. Ah, I see. I'm starting to get the idea that it isn't as common as the movies make out, and that it depends on the couple. Not my idea of fun, but everyone is different, I guess. Yeah, it's really more of a movie trope than anything. Doesn't mean you have to do it or don't, but not as common as they make it look. Our videographer was about 45 minutes late to the ceremony Catholic Mass, so it's usually about an hour. Missed the vows and all the other usual wedding stuff. They stayed late to the reception to make up for it. Thankfully he was at least good enough to call and say he would be late, so we could get some friends and family to take video at the last minute. But then we had to sue him to actually get our end video over 6 months after it was supposed to be finished. Currently looking for someone to make something decent out of the combination of cell phone videos and professional stuff. I went to a wedding once, and I left with a wife. I will leave it up to you to decide if that was a worst or a best. Maybe we will all do a sweepstake. I vote good. I'm still married almost 20 years later. We have kids. And I will leave it up to you to decide if that was a worst or a best. I have friends who live together and are childless by choice. I think for them, it would be a worst. It's in the eye of the beholder. One time, there was a really hot girl at a wedding marrying my cousin. During the ceremony, when the minister asked the hot girl if she wanted to marry my cousin, she said no. My cousin got mad and punched the girl. I luckily ran onto the stage and killed my cousin and saved the girl. Everyone in the audience clapped, and then I married her right there. We now have 2 kids and are living a great life. Worst thing was at my sister's wedding. It was about a year ago when I was 20, and there was a cute girl that wanted to dance with me, so I did. We start talking and she says she's 19, wants to go back to my hotel with me. Then my brother-in-law tells me she's actually 16. She got mad at me for not hooking up with her because apparently age of consent is 16 in that state. I grew up going to Jewish weddings, and tradition is to put the bride and groom on separate chairs and lift them into the air, and sometimes they hold hands over a divider that separates men and women. Well, I went to one where the bride fell off the chair and she started crying. I always felt like it was a bad idea in the first place ever since I was little, thinking what if this exact scenario plays out. Lol. So ironically my friend just had to take down her wedding video today after she put it on Facebook for like 2 days because one of the not so classy guests decided to vape while holding their 1-year-old and unintentionally blew smoke in the kid's face, and it ended up being in the video. I never saw her do it at the wedding, but I wish I had. I would have had a better story. At my wedding the registrar said the best man's name instead of mine during the I do's, and my wife was too busy staring at me to notice. My mate with pure class started to stand up and walk up to take my place. I gave him the evil monkey stare and the whole room was laughing pretty hard. The registrar's face was bright red and she apologized for it lol. I was at a wedding where the family had a tradition that between the wedding and the reception, the couple would take a 15-minute break to share a large bowl of chicken soup. They ate at a table in the middle of the courtyard and no one was allowed to come near. Not only does it prevent the starving bride problem, but it emphasizes that they are accountable only to each other. The bride and groom are at the altar. The minister is speaking, saying something to the effect of, "We are here in the presence of friends and family who are all here to give this union their blessing." To which the groom's mother stands up and says, "No, not everyone. I do not give this my blessing." It was both horrible and kind of hilarious. The bride's ex gate crashed the wedding, snatched the garland equivalent to ring from the groom, and tried to place it on the bride. He was thrashed by almost everyone close to the bride or the groom. I'm not one of them. The police we called, and I left after that, but the marriage took place. So she chimed in with, "Haven't you people ever heard of? When I was a child, my cousin and I cut our aunt's wedding cake while everyone was out of the room. We thought we were helping. I'd feel bad. She ended up divorcing the dude and her current husband is awesome." Sounds like you did them a favor. I like to think the same thing. D. We were at my uncle's wedding, and they decided to take a picture with everyone, so my sister and I were just somehow pushed to the edge and she nearly fell off the stage, and she caught my tie. I then took hold of my brother's suit and he, in turn, tried to hang on to me, but we all ended up falling. We still have the picture too. Watching the groom and his best men ride the bathtub that was used for the beer down a hill and not die. It was a hill for loading boats into a river. It was like a 150-foot ride, and they got going scary fast. The bath broke into pieces but all 5 of the men were fine, somehow. A guest let their children play in the kitchen a couple hours before the wedding despite repeatedly being told not to let their children in there among other things. Apparently they'd been misbehaving a lot. The kids destroyed the wedding cake. I believe they were related to the bride somehow, and that's why they were there so early. Father of the groom stood up to make his toast. His toast consisted of asking his wife to confirm that he was not the groom's biological father. The wife said nothing, and everyone else pretended nothing had happened. As far as I know there wasn't even a rumor about that, so I don't know. Happened last week at the same wedding, old couple dancing like pros to Cotton Eye Joe Llama statue gift to the newlyweds was the big hit of the wedding. I got to taste wine for the first time, it was sour. I got to taste wine for the first time, it was sour. Truly raging for a U-turn. Spoiling sari of bride. Yes, I spoiled wedding sari of bride accidentally. That sari was kept in a chair along with turmeric powder, saffron, bananas, flowers etc. By mistake I sat on it. That's it. Bananas were smashed, and their paste spoiled sari. My friend left her fiancé at the altar. She told him an hour or so beforehand it was off, but he thought she was being dramatic, so he showed up anyway. Her parents were very happy she called it off. They had to be told to stop smiling so much at the reception. The minister was doing their speech during the ceremony and asked, rhetorically, "What is love?" "Baby don't hurt me" was muttered by several groomsmen, who all started cracking up. Well, it's kinda like "Gonna find my baby, gonna hold her tight." Bride and groom were arguing when they arrived. At the reception the groom kept chugging back wine by the bottle and passed out before speeches even happened. Poor guy had to be carried out by his groomsmen. Best wedding ever. I hate wedding speeches. My best friend's biological father, who took off when she was very young, threw a fit and made everyone from his family leave because my best friend did her father-daughter dance with her stepdad, who has raised her in her father's absence. At my wedding, the maid of honor gave a 15-minute speech that did nothing but reference her breakup, and then me and my wife's prior relationships in gruesome detail. Longest 15 minutes of my life. We're no longer married. This guy got married to his fiancée. She looked so beautiful and amazing and the groom was so happy. Never seen a guy that happy. I'm glad I was that guy. Had me in the first half, I'm not going to lie. People throwing cupcakes at each other because the bride and groom had smashed a cupcake into each other's face. We could have been anything that we wanted to, so we decided to be chavs rednecks. Best bride and groom both happy crying at the altar. Worst another man proposing to his girlfriend during the reception. Never seen but heard about someone else proposing to the bride during the ceremony. I walked by an outdoor wedding in which the bride walked into Manita and the groom walked into Gold Digger. Either the whole family has a great sense of humor or the marriage is doomed. They rented a huge manor. Music? Not a problem. Spotify. Premium you ask? Nope, with the commercials. The last wedding I went, the DJ called the bride by the wrong name. Nobody was too happy with it, and the names weren't even close. There was an all-out brawl between two huge Middle Eastern ghetto families. Even one of the grandmas got into the brawl. The bride get into a fight with groom's mother. She was still in the wedding dress at the time. It was a good time. I saw the groom making out with his cousin at the reception. That marriage didn't last too long. Worst thing that happened was that someone almost died choking on their food. Worst thing ever, my dad married Amber. Camouflage wedding party attire.